Hey guys, today we got the most important conversation ever. You can tell by my cowboy telephone that we're going to be talking about the Cowboys, and we're going to be talking about who was the best quarterback to ever play for the Cowboys. Okay, so now let me get comfortable because this is going to be a long conversation here as to who is the best quarterback. So let's start talking about it now. So when we talk about who's the best quarterback, first of all, we talk about, what people remember. So our fantasy football league guys responded to this question, who's the best quarterback? The youngest guy said Aikman, no doubt. Not a Cowboy fan. The next one, also San Francisco fan, said Aikman. I don't know. Maybe, right? He's 3 Super Bowls. And of course, the youngest guy, whose team is named Al Pastor, he says that you can't argue with the rings and the dynasty. Well, I say you can argue with the rings because I don't think the rings have anything to do with you being the best quarterback. It is a team sport, and so you have to deal with the whole team, but we're talking just about quarterback play. Now, the oldest guy in our league said Staubach. Okay, that makes sense because he saw Staubach play also, so that is a good input there. Then we got from the guy we call Bo saying that Aikman was a very good game manager and that best overall would be Staubach and Romo. Now, he thought also that the defense was amazing during Aikman, as do most of us think that the defense was very good when Aikman was playing as well. The team called Cruise Control apparently likes Quincy Carter. I don't know why, but he likes Quincy Carter, and he says for us not to mess with him. We won't. I promise we won't mess with Quincy Carter. For now, we're not even going to mention Dak Prescott either, for obvious reasons. However, we are going to mention 4 quarterbacks. We're going to mention Staubach, we're going to mention Romo, we're going to mention Aikman, and we're going to mention Danny White as well, because they all had pretty good records, they all played very well, and we're going to try to see how they excelled and what they did good. By the end of this all, we're going to try to figure out who was the best quarterback. Let's start with a few statistics, and we have some notes here. So let's start with passer rating. Now, passer rating, you're going to see, as you see up on the screen here, that Romo was the best at a 97.1. Staubach had an 83.4. Danny White after. Aikman is 4th. And I threw the last in 2 for my brother, who is the older guy, Morton and LeBaron being the last. So if we go just by passer rating, we're going to see that Romo was the best quarterback as far as rating. However, if you consider some of these other players that are down here, Brady, Young, Manning, look at Favre, he's 86, Elway, 79.9, Bradshaw, 70.9. So, and some of these are the guys that won Super Bowls, and their ratings are not that great. So we can't really base ourselves from the rating itself. So let's move on to other stats. Yards, interceptions, touchdowns. If we do that, we'll see that Romo played 156 games, threw for 34,000 plus. He only threw 117 interceptions with 248 touchdown passes. Of course, he played in an era that they threw the ball a lot more. At least that's what we think. But Aikman actually completed more passes than Romo. Now, Aikman played 165 games, threw for less yards than Romo, but this was very interesting. He threw 141 interceptions. That's kind of, that threw me for a loop. I didn't think he had thrown for that many interceptions, and only 165 touchdowns. Of course, at that time, we had Emmitt Smith running the ball a lot better. The offensive line was great. Aikman would throw it down to the 1 to Irvin, and then, Emmitt Smith would take it in for the touchdown. So he probably could have had a lot more touchdown passes. However, a lot of that work went to Emmitt Smith. I think Staubach played in an era where they didn't throw the ball as much. They ran the ball a lot, and that's why you see less yards for him, less interceptions, less touchdowns as well. And then White also threw 155 touchdown passes, which is not too bad, but also threw 132 interceptions. I guess, we have to say we would see Romo throw interceptions maybe at the wrong time. I don't know if that happened with Staubach or with Aikman as much, but maybe that's why we considered him as throwing interceptions more than the other guys, but they're pretty equivalent. Okay, now we're going to move on to accuracy. Now, I think from what I saw, Staubach played in 1979, I saw that at that time he was overthrowing his receivers more. His accuracy was not as good as maybe when he was younger, and I didn't get to see him a lot more when he was playing in the early 70s. I saw the late 70s more than anything else. So for me, I thought Aikman had great timing, he had good accuracy, and he knew his receivers were going to be where they were going to be. So maybe that was good coaching and great accuracy as well. I think Romo also threw the ball extremely well. And so I'd say accuracy, I would have given it to Aikman. However, now I look at the completion percentages and I see that Romo had a 65.3 and Aikman had a 61.5. So who do we give it to? I mean, I may still lean towards Aikman because of how well he had those timing patterns down. And then White and Staubach rounded off at the end there. So let's move on from accuracy because that's not going to give us the best quarterback yet. Let's go on to the 2-minute drill. Okay, so the 2-minute drill, I personally thought that Aikman was not very good at the 2-minute drill. He always walked up to the line thinking he had so much time, and he always would be running out of time, especially when he was down by more scores than what we would want him to be, and then he couldn't make a comeback. So I just don't think they managed the time appropriately in the 2-minute drill. I thought that Roger Staubach did a lot better with that, and so did Tony Romo. Danny White, not too sure if he actually had a chance to do too many comeback game-winning drives or not. But let's go on and let's look at that. We'll throw this up here saying Staubach would be the best at the 2-minute drill, followed by Romo. And so in this case, Staubach would be the best quarterback at this, which is a big part of the game. Now let's go on to fourth quarter comeback victories. Staubach was called Captain Comeback, and he was very good at what he did, and he played amazing. It was always interesting to see, and every time that Staubach was playing, you always thought you had a chance to win. But the same goes for Romo. Every time that he played, we always thought you had a chance to win the game because of how he played and how he could move the ball. And I guess the way he could read defenses was amazing also. So when I looked at the numbers, I see that Romo had 25 fourth quarter comebacks and 30 game-winning drives. I think that comes down to the fact that maybe Romo had worse defenses playing for him, and that's why he had to have so many comebacks. So a lot of the games that he also lost because the defense couldn't hold. And so I'd say that in this case, yeah, Romo did have the most fourth quarter comebacks, followed by Staubach, then Aikman, and then Danny White. So, when you saw these guys play, you had a chance with both Staubach and Romo. And of course, Aikman seemed to always be in the lead because of the great defense they had, which kind of leads us on to all the other things we're going to talk about next. But let's talk about who was the most exciting player to watch of all these four. Well, I think Aikman was kind of boring. He was very mechanical and went through his reads and played the way he played, very calm and cool. So it was nice to see him play because you figured he was going to do very good. As far as making plays, scrambling plays would be, I think Roger Staubach would take that because he ran very well, could escape very good from possible sacks. He would, in the beginning of his career, he would run a lot more. Now, Romo had the same abilities, but Romo, in addition, had some playmaking abilities where he could throw the ball in different ways, do different things with the ball, and make different plays that I think Staubach maybe could not. I'm still going to give them, I think, a tie as far as how exciting they were and playmaking ability. I think they were both very, very good at what they did. And I think in this case, it would be a tie between Staubach and Romo. I feel that I'm leaving out one of the best quarterbacks that I like, and I haven't been able to talk too much about him, so I'm throwing this stat in. The best punter of the whole group would be Danny White. Danny White was a very good punter, probably had an average of 40, 41. I'm not too sure. I didn't look that up. However, he had this ability to run with the ball sometimes or throw the ball. You never knew what he was going to do when he was back there punting the ball, which always made that play very exciting to watch, because you never knew what was going to happen when he was back there. So Danny White, thank you very much for making that play so exciting for us. Okay, so now we kind of know a little bit about the quarterbacks, but now who played with the worst defense and the worst defenses over their careers? I think this is another place where we can throw Danny White in. Now, Staubach had doomsday defense, but Danny White had the aging doomsday defense. So Randy White and Too Tall Jones and Harvey Martin maybe were not the best at that time when Danny White was playing, and so we were losing some of that defensive power that we had in the earlier 70s. And so I think Danny White had a problem with that. He also didn't have the defensive backs that were there when Roger Staubach were there. So that was an issue. But if you look at it, Tony Romo also played with some defenses that were not very good. They always managed to get him to get behind in a game, and this is why he had so many comeback victories as well. But some of those ended up in losses as well, and so those defenses just did not help him. So I think that the worst defenses would be a tie between Danny White and Tony Romo. Who was playing with the best defense? Best defense and best offensive line? That has to be Aikman, hands down. Tony Romo had maybe 1 year with a great offensive line, which they did very, very good. However, Aikman had a great defense, had a great offensive line, and had a great runner also. So Aikman had a lot of advantages that I think these other guys didn't. Of course, Roger Staubach had some good running backs as well, and that helped. But I think Aikman, as far as defensive, team and offensive line, Aikman takes that one. So now, if you put it all together, I think that I'm going to throw out Danny White from this, and I'm actually going to throw out Troy Aikman from the top two. So now we're down to Staubach and Romo. Who was the best, and who do you think is the best? Staubach went to several Super Bowls, 4 or 5. He was in 5 Super Bowls, played in 4, and he got 2 rings and played against the Steelers in 2 epic Super Bowls, in Super Bowl 10 and 13. Romo didn't go to any Super Bowls, and so this is where I think you throw out the Super Bowl rings and you go, who was just the best quarterback? And it's tough to decide between these two, but let me tell you who I think is the best quarterback now. Based on everything that we've seen, everything that we've gone over, I'm going to tell you that the best quarterback that the Cowboys have ever had is maybe I'll just leave you in suspense. For all you Cowboy fans, let's have a good year from our fantasy football league. I'm coming after you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.